You're listening to The Drive and Kick. What is going on, everyone? Thank you for tuning in to another episode of The Drive and Kick. Joe and I are recording this on a Thursday night due to some scheduling conflicts this weekend. How you doing, Joe?
Kevin, not good. Not good. Never have been worse in terms of my Sixers fandom. This is the lowest I've been. Worse than the Kawhi shot, worse than the Celtics sweep, worse than any weird Embiid injury. It's that bad. So, but beyond that, life is good. So it's good to be here with you, Kevin.
Hey, great to hear, Joe. Always love getting together with you.
But beyond the Sixers, I'm doing good because we have two guests with us today. We have Howie, Applestein, and Tamir Shemesh with us today. So, Howie, how are you, my friend? Let's hear from you.
I'm awesome. I'm very happy to be here. I'm honored to be a part of the first guest spots on this podcast, and I cannot wait to talk about Russell Westbrook and the Los Angeles Lakers.
Yep, and let's hear it from Tamir. How are you, my friend?
Oh, it is an honor and a pleasure to be on this pod with you, gentlemen. I have a lot to say about the Lakers, and just something that I wouldn't have expected when we start the season. But we got a Sixers fan, a Warriors fan, a Lakers fan, and a Wizards fan here. And the Wizards have as many wins as all three of us combined to start the season. So that's just a fun stat to get us going. It's something I didn't see coming.
Hell yeah, we do. We're on our way to 40 wins. Nothing any of you guys can say.
I just want to.
Go ahead, Harry.
I just want to point out that the Wizards did start 10-3 last year, and if you remember, it didn't end that well.
Yeah, and we should have had Ben Simmons on our squad. We should have traded Beal for him, but he got hurt. Hey, what can you do? Enough Wizards talk. We're not talking about it today.
Yeah, you know what? For those listening, Kevin and I had map this episode out to not include any Sixers or Wizards talk. We have our guests on. We really want to just get into the Lakers. But I texted Kevin with an audible. I texted him last night after another Sixers loss to the Toronto Raptors. And I said, Kevin, my friend, I have to talk about the Philadelphia 76ers. I just have to talk about them. There are some things that need to be said. So I hope you guys don't mind. I need a minute just to say a few things about this just embarrassing team.
Please, Joe, give it to us.
All right. The Philadelphia 76ers should be ashamed of themselves. They should be ashamed of themselves. And it starts at the top. It starts with Daryl Morey. It goes with Daryl Morey, Doc Rivers, Joel Embiid. This team is a joke. This team is terrible. This team is not going to win anything. This is not a slow, sluggish start. This is a team that doesn't care. This is a team that has plenty of talent, but roster-wise needs a particular coach, and Doc, in all his incompetence, cannot figure out how to coach his way out of a closet. This team is terrible. This team is not going to win. I said that the Sixers are going to be in the NBA Finals. Plenty of other NBA writers who are much smarter than myself picked them, and we look like idiots. Like, I want to start with a couple things with the Sixers. And if this were just a start where they, were like rusty, missing shots, rotations were not quite figured out, I'd be fine. But what it comes down to with the Sixers is effort, and this team just gives none. Transition defense is thrown around as like people talk about it like it's a scheme. Like, transition defense is two things. It's effort and communication. And they don't like to do either of those things. Between James Harden, Joel Embiid, Tobias Harris, not one player has gotten back in transition. The only player on defense who looks like he actually wants to be there is DeAnthony Melton, who I'm very much enjoying, by the way. Joel Embiid is moping. Like, I'll say this about Embiid. Embiid is my all-time favorite athlete, but you can only handle the same old stuff for so long. the moping, the turnovers, the not getting back on defense. Like defensively, you want, like in the offseason, he talked about how he wants the Sixers to be the best defense in the league. On Saturday night, Joel Embiid was getting absolutely road run by Jakob Poeltl. I mean, the Sixers are incapable of getting stops. They're incapable of running an offense outside of Harden ISO and Embiid pick and rolls with Harden. And it comes down to coaching. It comes down to effort. It's not a talent thing. This team, like, I know that this team doesn't give a shit, and I think that's the worst part. Like they're embarrassing, and I don't think it's going to get better. And the worst part is there's no moves left. This team has used every bullet. They don't have any picks. They don't have any assets left. The only thing left is to blow it up because this team stinks.
Well, the good news is it's going to be really entertaining watching Wembanyama on the Nets after he gets drafted by them because they have the Sixers pick. But I'm hoping that was a very cathartic for you, Yams. I have one question, and feel free to chime in, everyone, but I wanted to specifically direct it at Joe. So just a few stats, and you touched on a couple of these things. The Sixers are 30th in pace. They're 25th in fast break points, 25th in assists, second in isolation, 5th in free throw rate, and they have 2 all-time floppers on their team, in Embiid and Harden. So, Yams, I need you to put on your neutral fan cap as best as you can right now and answer this one question. Are the Sixers the least entertaining team to watch in the NBA?
I mean, I would say that even as a fan, I hate watching them. They're a painful watch. Where to start? On offense, it's like putting square pegs in round holes. They try to occasionally run pick and rolls, but it's mostly Embiid and Harden flopping around at the top of the key. Tobias and PJ stand in the corner. There's zero off-ball movement. Nobody on the Philadelphia 76ers has heard of cutting. To them, that is a concept that is just outside their realm of understanding. Nobody's ever cut. Nobody's ever dove for a loose ball. Their offense is, and this is where it comes down to Doc Rivers, and this is where it goes down to Daryl Morey. Like, Daryl Morey went into the season being like, you know what, Doc's my guy. Let's have Doc Rivers run this offense. Let's have a team. Let's have a team that's built around a relatively slow but freakishly talented center that has an insane but specific set of skills, a very specific point guard, a 38-year-old kind of power forward center, along with Tobias Harris, and then Tyrese Maxey, who's just the man, but just thrown in this weird team. You know, who's going to figure out how to scheme this offense? Doc Rivers, he could do it. Like, this comes down to Morey, too. Like, it's incompetence on all fronts, and they're a painful watch. As a fan, I hate them. I can't imagine. Normal non-fans must think they're the worst. I hate them.
Gotta let Doc cook. But all I have to say is, as a Sixers hater, I cannot stand watching them. You will get to the Lakers. I don't like the Lakers at all. I dislike Westbrook. I love watching the Lakers because they're just a dumpster fire. The Sixers are just painful to watch. Can't stand them. Done talking about them. I'm happy you get that off your chest, Yams. Okay, so
actually no, we got to touch on the Blazers first.
Yeah, I want to touch on the Blazers. Give me 30 seconds on the Blazers because they're 4-0 and they deserve to be talked about. Shoot, of course. They lost last night?
They lost. I think they played the Heat tonight. Or was it last night?
No, last night they lost, yeah.
They lost.
Okay. Dame left.
Right.
Yeah.
He tweaked his blew out or turned his ankle. But I want to talk about the Trailblazers because they're 4-1. And despite, Dame hurting his ankle and having to be reevaluated in 2 weeks, this team has been awesome. Dame has looked like his old self, 2 back-to-back 40 games, hitting what I thought was going to be the dagger against the Lakers. Jeremy Grant ended up stealing that, but, they needed it. I thought Anthony Simons has shown some insane flashes, like that 22-point quarter against the Nuggets, even though he's been a little cold outside of that. And then Shaedon Sharpe is so smooth, and he's just another guy that I wanted the Wizards to trade their pieces for, move up to take him. And I think he's going to be a very good NBA player. And I'm really enjoying watching this Blazers team. I was telling some friends earlier this week that Damian Lillard, when he's on, might be my favorite player to watch in the NBA. And I'm just, outside of this injury, obviously, I'm so happy he's back and he's doing his thing. So
yeah, I'm happy for Dame. He's the man. I agree with you. When he's on, there's really not a player I enjoyed more watching. I will say I believe that the Blazers are fun again for one reason, and that is coaching Megamind Scott Brooks as the assistant coach on that team. So beyond that,
he used to come to my high school games because his son went to my high school. So
Scott Brooks has this team looking back to they look like it's 2018 again, thanks to Scotty. So go Blazers, baby.
Oh God, good old Scotty B. I do not miss that, man.
You want to talk Lakers?
We have to talk Lakers.
This was the Lakers pod. The stupid Sixers ruined it, but this is the Lakers pod.
Okay, so Tamir, I think you should start us off. Take the floor. Give us some of your feelings, thoughts on this terrible, terrible Lakers team.
All right. I mean, I have so much to say about this team, and I've been told I'm not supposed to curse on this pod, so I'm really going to try to hold it back here. It's going to be tough talking about this team, but I'm going to try my best to hold back the cuss words when talking about the Lakers. But I mean, where do we start? I mean, Russ is obviously a big problem. He's bad. He's just not good, and he gets paid. He's the second highest paid player in the league, which is ridiculous, and he's just not good anymore. But I mean, as bad as Russ is, I think he's a symptom of the bigger problem with the Lakers, which is the virus infecting this organization that is Rob Pelinka. I mean, what has this man done? He made one good move, which practically fell into his lap, which was the Anthony Davis trade, which he couldn't mess that up because Anthony Davis refused to sign long-term anywhere else. So that was impossible for him to mess up. And outside of that, all he's done is mess up this team left and right. I mean, the blueprint's out there for LeBron James's team. Just surround him with shooters, and you're good to go. And what has he done? He traded Kuz, KCP, two solid shooters for Russ and a first, like one of the worst trades in recent memory. Mm-hmm. On top of that, he didn't re-sign Alex Caruso for like a meager $9 million a year, who is a defensive stud. And he shoots the ball decently well, but you more have him for your defense and effort, but he wouldn't re-sign him. Just ridiculous. And what did Jeannie Buss do? She extended him. Like, I can't believe it. You're so bad at your job and you get another 4 years on top of that. It's just ridiculous. And this man's not going anywhere, which makes me sad. And I have no hope for this team while Rob Pelinka's in charge.
I do love how, the Lakers clearly needed shooters around LeBron James, and Rob Pelinka was like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to surround him with Russell Westbrook, Patrick Beverley, and Lonnie Walker IV. That'll do it. That'll move the needle.
It reminds me of that was it LeBron's first season when Magic was still, with the guy there, and he said, "Oh, we don't need shooters. We need a bunch of tough guys like Lance Stevenson, et cetera, et cetera." And they couldn't shoot, and then they were terrible. It's the same thing, except worse.
Yeah, and I was just going to add that Rob, they didn't go after Bogdanovich, who was on the market and got sent to Detroit. Like the perfect player.
He'd be so good on this team. So good. One of the players that I don't think I've ever seen miss.
So I want to open the floor here to our friend Howie, who is a known Russell Westbrook hater. I'd like to. Westbrook is the talk of the town in La La Land here. I'd like just to, Howie, let's go back. I'd like you to just introduce yourself to listeners, talk about what inspired you to talk about Russell Westbrook tonight.
So I have, for those of you who don't know me and know my basketball takes, for years just despised the way Russell Westbrook plays basketball. I cannot stand it. And the past couple of days, like going into this pod, I've been thinking to myself, I could say some really mean things about Russell Westbrook. But then I started thinking, what actually is going on here? And so I started going back and thinking to myself, why did I hate the way Russell Westbrook plays basketball? And I came to the conclusion it's because I decided he doesn't care about winning. He cares about his own stats. Nothing he has shown throughout his career has indicated he cares if his team wins a game or not. And so, put yourself in Russell Westbrook's shoes. Last year, you're on a bad team. It's not a good team. You play 78 games. You put up 18, 7, and 7, which is in a vacuum a pretty good stat line. I mean, he was horribly inefficient, but 18, 7, and 7. You're an NBA player. You feel pretty good about yourself. And the fan base and media just attacks you relentlessly all year about your performance. And they just ignore the fact that LeBron and AD were just injured all year and couldn't stay healthy, and the team was just in shambles because of that. So going into this offseason, Russell Westbrook thinks to himself, you know what? Screw this team. Screw LeBron. Screw this fan base. I'm going to take $50 million from them, and I'm going to play the worst basketball you have ever seen someone play. I think he is doing this on purpose.
Oh, that's a bold take.
Like, he has actively decided to destroy this franchise. He's like, you didn't support me? Well, I'm not going to support you, and I'm going to actively lose you games.
So I want to hop in real quick. On paper, that could make sense. He signs his contract. He has that weird, I guess it's not that weird, but he has that video of him celebrating, almost throwing it, not his extension, the player option in everyone's face, being like, I just made $50 million. Take that. He's dancing in his video. Between that and the shots he took against the Pacers, I'm sorry, not the Pacers, the Blazers, where he pulled up with like 18 seconds left. They're up 1. He pulls up from mid-range for no reason and just terribly misses it. Those two things alone make me think that maybe you're onto something, Howie.
And he buys a house across from LeBron. He's trolling LeBron. That is what he's doing. This is one of the greatest troll jobs in NBA history.
Is Russell Westbrook the best bit guy in the league? Russell Westbrook is so interesting to me because when I watch him play and I look back to watching him in 2011, 2012, I don't feel like there are certain guys where you could obviously see as they age, as they get into their early 30s, mid 30s, you could see athleticism waning. But I watched Russ and he still looks like his athleticism doesn't look like a drop to the extent in which like you could see it clearly drop with Harden. And I just let him like, when and how did he become so bad? Because there was a point in his career when there was a switch that flipped. And it's watching him, and I can't figure out how and when it happened because he still has insane burst. I mean, he's still an absolute freak athlete, but it's like his brain broke. Like I don't know, like when did this happen and how did this happen?
I went back and looked at his playoff stats sometime this week, and I'm looking at them now. And the 2016-2017 playoffs, that was his MVP season, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. He loses in the first round to Houston 4-1, and he puts up like insane on the surface numbers. He averages like 38, 11, and 12. Insane. But he's shooting like 38% from the floor and like 22% from 3. So it's just horribly inefficient, and it just doesn't translate. And I just think the triple-double season, the first triple-double season was like historic and like something to celebrate. It is an accomplishment. But like once that season ended, I think it just all became meaningless. Those stats, they just didn't translate.
Yeah, and one thing that I was texting Joe about this that just doesn't make sense to me is how he went from like an 88% free throw shooter, mid to high 80% free throw shooter to a mid to high 60% free throw shooter. I don't get it. I don't know what happened there, but that's kind of what I think about when Yams talks about his brain breaking. So, Tamir, what have your thoughts been on Westbrook this season? Do you think this could be intentional?
Harry said, as much as I would like to think that is true, I just don't think he looks like the same player as last season. It doesn't look like he's gotten worse from last season. He looks like about the same. It's the same Russell Westbrook I expected to come into this season, and which is not good. He's just not efficient. He takes bad shots. He's just not a good player overall at this point in his career, especially not one getting paid $48 million, and definitely not on a LeBron James team. So I think we just need to send him home until we can find a trade. Rob Pelinka wants to wait until Thanksgiving because he just doesn't like doing his job. Like, he's bad at it, so I guess he figures he's better just not doing it at all. But
real quick,
yeah. Go ahead, Kev.
Speaking of the Westbrook trade and potentially sending him home and what have you, I want to know what you think, and open up to the floor, but specifically what you think, Tamir, about the best Westbrook trade that has been floated around there. So obviously Westbrook and the 2 picks. The 2 ones that I've heard the most are obviously there's the Turner Hield trade, and then the other one being the Hayward Terry Rozier trade. I've heard bits and pieces about other ones, but nothing substantial at all. Which one of those do you prefer? Is there a third option that you've heard that you thought was really interesting?
Yeah, the one that's caught my eye the most has definitely been Turner Buddy Hield. And while I do think, the 2 first-round picks is a bit of an overpay. At this point, the market's only going to get worse for the Lakers. We're desperate. The league knows we're desperate. We look bad. And the worse we look, the higher the price is going to be to get rid of Russell Westbrook, because no one has any incentive to trade with us or help us out. So I think we just got to I really think Buddy Hield and Miles Turner would fit incredibly well with this team. Buddy Hield is the exact type of player you want playing with LeBron James. Miles Turner is a defensive anchor for a team that their defense is pretty good. Like, our defense is solid, and Anthony Davis wouldn't have to play the center, which we know he doesn't like to do, even though he's played it well this year. Like, he doesn't like to do it for whatever reason. And Miles Turner would allow him to not do that and also play less minutes. So, I think that trade would help us a lot. Like, are we a contender? Are we going to beat like the Bucks or the Celtics? I don't think we will at the end of the day. And I don't know if there's a trade out there that will get us there. So that begs the question if it's worth it to even make this trade. But when you have LeBron James, you kind of got to do what you can to at least give yourself a shot. Because if we make the playoffs, if you have LeBron James and Anthony Davis in a 7-game series, like, I feel like we have a shot at least against any team. I don't think we'll be favored in a series, but we have a shot.
I'm gonna quick jump in. It looks like Howie wants to say something too, but I'm gonna quick.
Oh, you go ahead, Joe.
In the spirit of being a full Sixers nihilist, I'm going to say something about a Russell Westbrook trade. There is no trade market for this guy. No, there is going to come a point, and I've said this for years, there will come a point in the NBA landscape when GMs and front offices stop trading for Russell Westbrook. Teams have been doing it, and I've never understood it, and I think the point has come. And 2 first-round picks is not an overpay. 2 first-round picks is probably not enough to get off that contract. And even if you did make the Turner Hield trade, I'm going to say some things about those 2 players. Buddy Hield, the kind of guy that everybody wants on your team until you actually watch him play for your team. Miles Turner and Anthony Davis, the Lakers would be first team all street clothes. That team between those 2 guys would play a total of 20 games together. I can't see any team making a trade. The Hornets are bad, but I don't know why they would trade. Like, if you're going to trade Gordon Hayward and Terry Rozier, you're not going to just dump them for Westbrook. You're going to want to get – same with Turner and Hield. I can't see it. I don't think there's a market.
Well, so, you know why they would do it? They would do it for one word, Wembanyama. You bring in Westbrook, just send him home. Caught myself from cursing there. And then you just play your worst guys and roll the dice. Hope you get Wembanyama. Hope you get Scoot. Russ is on the last year of his contract. He's an expiring. So it's like, okay, we'll eat $50 million. Why not?
He isn't expiring. All right, Howie, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm going to build off what Kevin is saying there. And I'm going to add another team who I actually think would make a trade for Russell Westbrook, and that's the Utah Jazz. The Utah Jazz are 4-1. That's a problem. Danny Ainge is looking at this roster and he's thinking, stop doing this. Lauri Markkanen, what is this? Like, who are you? I did not want this on my team. The Utah Jazz have Rudy Gay, Jordan Clarkson, and Kelly Olynyk. 3 guys who would be great to play with LeBron. Those are like 3 solid pieces that LeBron would play really well with.
Give me Lauri and Clarkson, and I'm happy.
I don't think you can get Lauri. I don't think the Jazz would be willing. I mean, that's like too blatant of a tank. I mean, Adam Silver would be like, please, Danny Ainge, you can't do this. But I think Danny Ainge would be wholly willing to take on Russell Westbrook. Russell Westbrook probably wouldn't even play. He probably would not even. They maybe work out a buyout, maybe just send him home like the Rockets did with John Wall. Because Russ always gets in fights with the Utah fans, because everyone gets in fights with the Utah fans. But I think the Jazz are actually the best trade destination. They also have Mike Conley. I mean, these are all guys who I think, if you got those 4 guys, you could maybe make an argument that they'd be worth 2 first-round picks if LeBron can capture some lightning in a bottle come playoff time.
I think come the trade deadline, I think teams are going to be knocking down the Jazz's door, trying to pry Clarkson at the very least from them. And, not to mention, they have Colin Sexton too, who's been very bad this year so far, but he just came back from an injury. I'm not writing him off. They just have all of these pieces. Well, I guess, can they even trade for Sexton? Because he just extended. So maybe they can't trade for him. Scratch that. But they have all these pieces that, for example, I know Joe and I have already talked about this on our previous pod. The Sixers would kill for Jordan Clarkson, the Chuck God. So
offer one Tobias Harris.
one floor spacer for another.
So, Kev, you want to take a look at the beyond this Lakers? Do you want to go to the mailbag? We have an interesting Lakers mailbag. Do you want to go to it?
Yeah. Did you send it to me, or I can pull? Let me go through your text. Do you want me to read it?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, give me 1 second. So this one comes from longtime listener of the pod, Andrew Heffler. So Andrew says, the Lakers are an unfair punching bag. While they made some mistakes like letting Caruso go, the position they are in is a product of a title. That should be an important pretext for this situation. They went for it and it worked. Also, the bubble title is being shit on a bit lately, and I think that's unfair. The bubble is historic and will be remembered beyond many individual years, and the degree of difficulty of winning that title might exceed most others due to the circumstances as well. A better punching bag is Brooklyn, who went for it, is a punching bag, and has nothing to show. Thanks for that, Andrew.
Kev, you want to respond to it first? I know that you got
So I have some decently strong thoughts on that. I disagree, to put it simply. I disagree with a few parts of it. First off, I don't think you can write off this current Lakers team as being the product of a championship. It's just what you had to do to win that championship, and because you won that championship, it's all worth it. I disagree with that, because they had that core and they gutted their team to bring Westbrook in, and they have nothing to show for it except a bunch of losses. Additionally, I don't like the take that Brooklyn would be a better punching bag, because there's like no Nets fans. There's maybe 15 Nets fans in the entire world, and they're really just Kevin Durant fans, or they're Kyrie fans. They're not actual Nets fans. So part of the joy, and Nico, of course, our friend of the pod, Nico, part of the joy of attacking the Lakers isn't just because they're the Lakers. It's because their fans, outside of Tamir, are the most annoying fan base, maybe out of any of the big four in the United States. So that's my take. And I do tend to agree with the bubble, but the other two, that's how I feel. Pass it to whoever wants it.
You're writing off the Sixers on that annoying fan base list.
Hey, they're top 3 to 5, but it's tough for
They
them
don't
to
win
be
enough to
annoying.
be annoying.
Exactly.
We're too
Online
slow.
Raptors fans are not great.
They're up there. But guys, thoughts on this mailbag?
I mean, I mentioned it earlier, but I completely agree that it's not the product of the championship that we're in this situation. It's the product of the worst GM in the history of professional sports running this team, that we're in this situation, that traded an insane amount for Russell Westbrook. I saw something, I was reading some article, I forget who wrote it, but Alec, we could have, for the price of paying Westbrook, we could have Alex Caruso, KCP, Kuzma, and PJ Tucker for all less than the $47 million that Russell Westbrook is being paid. Like, all those guys would be so amazing on this team right now. And yeah, so it's all Rob Pelinka's fault. And I do defend the bubble championship, so I do agree with that point.
I just would like to add that not only did they trade for Russ, they traded for Russ when DeMar DeRozan was available on the trade market also. And LeBron picked Russ. We're talking about Pelinka here. And yes, Pelinka's the GM. Yes, he's the one who signs off on this. He's the one making the phone calls. But LeBron and AD walked into Pelinka's office and said, "Go get Russ." And that is on them too. They made their bed. They have to sleep in it.
Yeah, Howie, you're my man. You read my mind. I was gonna say everyone talks about Pelinka, but when you have LeBron James on your team, who's LeBron is just like that now, that stubborn old man at the grocery store who you just can't convince that something actually is the case when he believes one specific way. I don't think Pelinka's in charge in that team. I mean, and I can't think Rob Pelinka's a smart guy. I don't think anybody who is that successful gets to that point will rationally think that Russell Westbrook is what makes sense for this team instead of X, Y, and Z. Nobody thinks that. The reason Russell Westbrook gets traded to teams is because annoying stars are running the teams and they tell them to go get that guy. I mean, same thing happened in Houston. Morey made one of the worst trades that really ruined the Rockets trading for Westbrook. I mean, because Harden wanted him. There comes a point when it's the level of authority and power that superstars in the NBA have dictate most of these decisions. So I don't think it's fair to kill Pelinka so much, because I think LeBron is just the grumpy old man being no, this guy actually is good. You guys don't know. Go get him.
Well, I going back to when that trade happened. The rationalizations were, okay, here is someone whose play style is almost similar to LeBron's, where it's driving the basket, kicking it, aggressive athleticism, playing above the rim. So the rationalization was, here's a guy who can take the load off of LeBron, who's getting older, but it just didn't work. And that rationalization obviously was a poor thought process when people were making that argument, because we know that doesn't work with a LeBron team. It doesn't, you can't make your team, build a team based on the idea of LeBron playing less minutes. That's not going to lead to winning basketball. But I can see why someone like LeBron and AD would think, okay, maybe we can make this work.
Players also have terrible track records of knowing how to run a team. I mean, there's a different way of looking at it. They don't necessarily know whether or not, I mean, just personal biases and relationships get in the way all the time in the NBA.
How many players view Kyrie Irving as one of the best players in the league over the last couple of years, which, hey, he's great. When he's on the court, very talented. But I remember Evan Fournier said something he's the most talented player of all time. And it's okay, he's skilled, but let's pump the brakes there, Evan. Okay. So I have a quick Russell Westbrook question, specifically for Tamir, because we've all watched Russell Westbrook, but only two of us have had to root for Russell Westbrook. So, Tamir, what has been the worst Russ moment since he joined your squad?
It's so hard to pick one moment with us because it's ever since he's joined my squad, everything's been so bad. I think the worst thing about having Russ on your team that makes me want to like gouge my eyes out is when he pulls up for a mid-range bank shot, and there's three outcomes for this bank shot. Either hits the top of the backboard, he sometimes misses the board completely, or it goes in like maybe 5% of the time. And he airballs it sometimes too. So anytime Russ pulls up for a mid-range bank shot is easily the most infuriating moment for me as a Lakers fan watching Russell Westbrook play. And it happens way too often.
I think that's totally fair. Again, anyone that's had to watch Westbrook dribble down the court, he always loves to do it from like the left side.
Yeah.
Back this guy in, and then just stand up straight and go for the quick trigger bank shot and just miss it by 4 feet. I mean, it happens legitimately every game. That's not hyperbole.
Yeah.
And it's incredibly frustrating. I will say that my least favorite Russ moment is a little more specific. It's not, him being terrible in the playoffs. We're playing the Sixers. I knew we didn't have a shot. He played poorly, whatever. I don't care. For me, it was the 5th game of our season with Westbrook. We are playing the Chicago Bulls. They are not good. This is before DeRozan. They have Levine, but they're not good. No one's viewing this team as a playoff team by any stretch of the imagination. And we come in and we lose by 3. And Beal, if everyone remembers, was going off during that season. He had 28. He was getting to the free throw line. He was doing everything. +3 in a 3-point loss. I know plus minus is the best stat. But then you look at Russell Westbrook. He had 22, 10, and 11. And you're like, oh, that's pretty good. 8 for 18. That's not terrible. He hit 3 threes. Wow, he must have had a really good game. But wait, he's -10. That is the story of the first half of that season, because Westbrook would put up numbers, and if you didn't watch the game, you'd say, oh, I guess he had a fine game. But he was so bad and he was so detrimental to winning basketball that when we lost that game, I stood up. I was watching with my dad. I stood up from the couch and I just went straight to bed. I didn't say a single word. It was the maddest I've maybe ever been watching a basketball game, because this game was the definition of Westbrook giveth and Westbrook taketh away. He would do one good thing, and then he would have 3 crazy turnovers, or he would miss 2 free throws, or he would take a terrible shot that you just don't need. And it was at that moment that I realized I truly hated Westbrook as a player. Oh, it aged me 100 years. I could not be happier that the Lakers flipped him for actual talented players like Kyle Kuzma, who's maybe the best player on the Wizards right now, the last 2 seasons. Joe, I believe you had a...
Yeah, I have a Russ question that's really been tickling my brain. And that is, has Russell Westbrook for his entire career been detrimental to winning? And I want to give this question to Howie, because this question fascinates me. Especially because obviously, as you guys know, he was on an NBA Finals team. He was on they go to 2 conference finals too. They had that horrible loss against the Warriors before Durant left. Has he ever been a player that is conducive to winning? Ever?
I'm glad you brought up the Western Conference Finals with Durant, because I was going to add that my favorite Russell Westbrook moment was pissing Kevin Durant off enough for him to want to join the Warriors. But besides that, I mean, I pulled up those series stats, and Russ is, I would say, is good in that series. Like, he has a better offensive rating than Durant, a better defensive rating. His effective field goal percentage is like over 50%. So like, there was a time when he was younger, he was a better shooter. There was a time when he was, in fact, contributed to winning basketball when he wasn't averaging a triple double. That's what's insane about it, is that when he starts averaging a triple double, it just takes away from the team because he's so inefficient the way he goes about it. But when he's playing off of Durant, it's a young team, super athletic, and playing above the rim, it works. And he just doesn't do that anymore.
It's like he got in his head after Durant left that, I have to be the alpha dog. I have to be the guy. Wherever I go, I gotta put this team on my back. And that first season with OKC, he did. They were not a good team. You look at some of the names, you're like, oh, they have some talent. They have Jeremy Grant, they have Domantas Sabonis, but they were young players. I think they had Oladipo too. They had talent, but they were young players. They were not there yet. And it's like he's taken that mindset and brought it to every single team. And most of the time, it doesn't work.
I'm thinking just pure chaos here. Let's bring over the Sixers, reunite him with Harden. Let's ruin me once and for all. One more dagger is all it takes. I don't think I have anything more on Russ unless anybody else, has anything else to say about our esteemed All-Star.
Yeah, I mean, one particular moment the other night against the Blazers, Lakers have a chance to get on the win column, like 35 seconds to go. Russ dribbles down the floor with the Lakers up 2, I think, at the time, takes his patented mid-range jump shot with 30 seconds left. Everyone is screaming at him not to do it. The announcers are screaming at him not to do it. And of course he clanks it. And then Dame hits that 3, and the rest is history. And here we are at 0-4. So that might be the most mad I've ever been at Russell Westbrook.
Not only does...
And that might go towards Howie's theory that maybe he's doing it on his purpose, because that was such a bad shot. Like, he can't in his right mind have thought, oh, this is good. This is good for this team right now to take this shot. So, maybe that does give some credence to Howie's theory.
And not only does Dame hit a 3, but Jeremy Grant also takes AD and LeBron just to the lane and kills them. I mean, and so, like, we talked about Russ this whole time, but, like, LeBron and AD, like, they have the number 1 defense in the NBA, but, like, come on. Like, you're going to really let Jeremy Grant do that to you? Come on.
Oh.
Yeah, I wasn't going to bring that up, but, yeah, that did happen. That was pretty embarrassing for those guys.
We got Sixers East, we got Sixers West. Neither care about guarding anybody, so... Basketball's great, man.
Yeah, well, I don't have anything else if no one else does. Okay.
I just want to say I appreciate you having me on. It's been a pleasure to hop on the pod with you guys and rant about the Lakers. This was therapeutic for me, so I really appreciate it.
Do we think the Lakers remain this bad? Like, this is actually a question I'd like to end. Gut feeling, and I want gut feeling from everybody here. Do you guys think the Lakers and Sixers are both going to have true disaster seasons, or will both in their own way find a way to somehow figure it out? I'm going to go last.
I'm not going back on my Sixers pick yet. I think it's too early. I think they're going to get a coaching change, and I think Mike D'Antoni is going to lead them to the promised land. Lakers...
That's a
Lakers,
take.
I'm less bullish on. I think they're gonna be bad.
I agree about the Sixers with Kevin. I don't think we didn't talk about this, James, but the fact that this is a lower point for you than the Kawhi shot is insane. Like, that's insane. Like, come on.
I could elaborate on that. So.
I mean, I get the mindset that, like, you had such high hopes, like, coming into this season, but it's the first week of basketball. Harden probably still. We talk about him getting into shape. He probably needs to play himself into shape, maybe a little bit more. Same with Joel. Yeah, I'm not actually worried about the Sixers, but the Lakers, I don't think they make the play-in. I don't see it happening. I mean, they're going to be competing for that 10 seed spot with the Spurs, the Jazz, and I just don't. It's going to be tough, especially once the age and injuries start catching up to LeBron and AD. There are going to be stretches where this team is putting out like process Sixers rosters. On
AD is going to be in street clothes before you know it.
If the Lakers can make a move in the next month or so, get Russell Westbrook, get a shooter or two, I think we'll make the play-in. We're definitely not a contender. We're not winning anything this year. We can make the play-in / playoffs if we make some moves in the next months or so. Sixers are going to be fine. I don't think they're as good as everyone thought they were. I don't think you're in tier. You're the A tier of teams. I think you're probably B. You're going to make the playoffs. You'll be fighting for home court. I think you'll be around 4 or 5. But I don't think they're as good as we thought they were coming into the season. But I think you'll make the playoffs no problem.
Here's what worries me about the Sixers and why I'm in doomsday mode. I felt going into this season that this is the Sixers, the Embiid era's last shot. There's no more moves to be made. Harden's already 33. He's got 1 or 2 good years left in him. You're stuck with Tobias. There's really not much more you can do. So I always felt like this was the last shot with Embiid. And seeing it in reality, it just doesn't look like it's happening. And I think that's why I'm at the lower than Kawhi point. Because at the Kawhi shot, I was like, man, this sucks, but we still have Embiid. He's young. But now it's like, oh man, doomsday. I don't know if we're ever going to do it. So, but according to you guys, they'll get right. I could see them figuring out, but at this point, they don't give me any reason to believe that they're going to get out of the second round again. Lakers, I think they're actually just going to be terrible and miss the playoffs. So I think the Sixers find a way to get me excited again and then just kill me slowly. So.
It's the cycle of life, Joe. The cycle of being a Sixers fan.
Yes, I love it. Well, thank you guys for joining. This was great. It's good to have your perspective. Good to talk about Russell Westbrook. We got to have a Simmons pod next.
Oh
boy! I feel like all of our podcasts are Simmons pods, Joe.
What's that?
I feel like all of our podcasts are Simmons pods.
Hey, they're about to be join the loser Sixers and go 1-4. The Mavs have like a 10-point lead in OT right now with like a minute left. So, welcome to the loser world, Nets. We all suck here.
Join the club, except for the Wizards, 3-1.
Woo! Well, on that absolute high note, I just want to say thank you both for coming. This was a great podcast. It's incredible to have you guys as our first guests. And I want to say thank you to Andrew. I never thanked him for that mailbag question. We kind of trashed it, but I appreciate him chiming in either way. And thank you to everyone for listening. I believe we're still posting this on Monday, so maybe some of our takes will age a little poorly given the time gap. But thanks everyone for tuning in, and we'll see you all next Monday.